Slams. And every episode is a main event. Join your tag team champions of talk, Matt and Matt, as they grapple with the latest news, hottest debates, and legendary stories from the world of professional wrestling. From the roar of the crowd to the secrets behind the curtain, these two Matts bring the heat and the hard-hitting analysis every wrestling fan craves. So lace up your boots, hit the ropes, and get ready to tag in for a wild ride. This is WrestleMatts.
What's up? What's up? Matty Kelly, Matty Riser. Oh, baby, we are in for a Tuesday night edition of WrestleMatts, and I'm thankful that I'm pretty sure our theme song has worked in here for the first time on the live stream. Matty, how hyped are you for that one, buddy?
Dude, smooth transition. We're just kind of figuring this like technology of 2025, but everything's evolving, and it looks like we are too at WrestleMatts.
Hey, now look at that smooth transition from Matty Riser. Good job, buddy. Yeah, we are live on Facebook, YouTube, and X tonight. We're going to be talking part-time booking. Is it good? Is it bad? What do we think? We are going to get into that as our main event topic. But as always, we got a quick count topic to hit up Matty first. And as I watched Raw last night, Matty, for the first time in a hot minute, I thought to myself, what's happening in the tag team scene? And is WWE actually kind of trying a little bit right now? Like, oh, all of a sudden, new teams are popping up. Some exciting teams are popping up. And we might actually have something resembling a tag team division.
Dude, everything's kind of starting to grow on us. All our bitching and complaining's paying off. Triple H is listening. He said we got to build from the ground up, and now look at us, dude. We're cooking tag team scene, and it's not just a revolving belt. It's teams that were more, I'd said, has more depth. Maybe the Alexa Bliss, the Flair, this Wyatt.
Right.
We kind of have something to kind of get invested in.
Right, so we got the Wyatt Six, winning the titles, and we'll see what happens with them as a tag team. Again, if that's going to be like a Freebird rule situation, we're getting different members defending New Day-esque. But, I mean, you have the New Day, though, truly kind of reinventing themselves right now, finally in this heel run. Like, this is the New Day that I feel like we were looking for. And those two, Xavier and Kofi, man, they are absolutely cooking with this gimmick right now. You mentioned Charlotte and Alexa. We haven't had a tag team in a minute with like two superstars. You know what I mean? And Alexa and Charlotte are that in the women's division. So it's cool to see that. And then you still have those established tag teams out there like the Profits. You got American Made and a couple other ones thrown in there as well. But then on Monday night, Matty, we get the LWO going over in this, I think it was like an 8-man tag team match. And now at some point, they have a tag team title shot. So WWE has the opportunity to build on the division, build a new team. And, man, it could be exciting times for the tag teams right now.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've been waiting for, is just more things to be involved. We didn't want to see just the War Raiders every week or the Creed brothers. We wanted to see some juice from everybody. And that's what we're getting, man. And you're getting the personality. Whether I would keep going back to Bliss and Flair, but we're big fans of that.
Mm-hmm.
And now Wyatt's, we've been waiting months for them to do something. And now tag division, perfect place to start. Like you said, Freebird rule. I can dig that.
Well, with Bliss and Flair specifically, we need somebody to kind of combat what's going on with Judgment Day and Roxanne and Raquel, and it feels like they have some viable challenges, because I think that's been one of the bigger, kind of one of the bigger challenges, one of the bigger hurdles, especially in the women's tag team division, is just like constantly feeling like you actually have someone to challenge for those titles. And maybe with those two, their star power. Maybe you get a Bella Twins thing going on at some point. Maybe you actually develop some more tag teams within the NXT division. Who knows, man? I think, though, there is some growth and some effort to try right now, and I'm encouraged by that, at least.
Yeah, tag team division are big risers this week, as far as I'm concerned, all around. Like even
Yeah.
getting to see, Chelsea Green as a tag, everything kind of works for what we need. But like we mentioned earlier, is like let's get some of these individual stars, have them tag together, and kind of see what we have in the tag division.
Yeah, I'm still waiting on my Drew McIntyre, Damian Priest team, but we will. I don't know, man. I'm just putting it out there in the universe to see if it'll happen at some point. We'll see. We'll see. All right, let's get into our main event topic for this week. And it's going to be kind of more free flowing than a lot of our episodes have been in the past. There's not a direct, PLE card that we need to follow. There's not a Raw that we need to review. It's nothing like that. We're just talking about kind of how part-time booking is either effective or ineffective, what's good, what's bad, because I think we can both agree, Maddie, there's instances where it is very, very beneficial to the product. And then there's instances like, well, why did that ever even happen?
Right. And it's got to be the perfect storm of everything, because we've seen a lot of legends come back and shit the bed. We've seen even some of our current favorite wrestlers just kind of their storylines suck. So a lot has to go into it to make these part-timers cook on the current product.
Yeah, and part-time, actually, before we jumped on, well, speaking of part-time, not that he's an active wrestler anymore, but I just saw that The Undertaker was on NXT tonight, cutting a promo on Trick Williams, who is now your still is rather, your TNA World Champion. And so I think in instances like that, where you have an Undertaker that can come back and it's like, okay, you understand that this night on NXT is basically his given purpose. And you'll get some people to tune in, and I think that's completely fine. Where I think the difference kind of lies is where when you have someone like The Rock come back, the way that he did with John Cena, and you think you're getting more, and then you don't. And I thought about it too from the standpoint, Maddie, what if when The Rock came back, what if he would have been with like somebody more up and coming? Because now, like we truly know John Cena can go off and carry it, whether The Rock comes back or not. That part does not matter at all.
Right.
But what if it would have been a Carmelo Hayes? What if it would have been somebody that was really trying to turn into like the next level up superstar? I think that could have been incredibly detrimental if The Rock would have just, packed his bags and went home.
Yeah, I think you got to put over the younger talent. So if you're going to work, or full-time talent, if you're going to go with one of those guys like a Theory or Carmelo Hayes, you've got to book them to make them look strong, like that they are who they are. Like, and I think that was a problem with The Rock, is he's so bigger, larger than life. He takes over your screen. So if he's not with an established wrestler, it's almost like he's just shitting on you.
Interesting. Yeah. Yeah, I can see that. I didn't think about it from that perspective, and that it's going to be hard to measure up with someone like The Rock. So it's interesting, here we are talking about Taker, but I think Taker's been so part-time at this point, and then when you do put him in there with a Trick Williams, you're like, oh, this is kind of actually to level up Trick Williams in that particular instance. So yeah, that's interesting that The Rock kind of almost specifically has to be in there with somebody established. I kind of agree with that. Do you like seeing the part-timers? Because I do feel like now, while it is like kind of always in the product, it's not nearly, I don't think, as prominent as when Vince was running things.
Yeah, I mean, if it's done right, I think that's kind of what this comes back to, is how you can book part-time talent and not take away from your week-to-week television, that it's detrimental. We've seen that kind of, I know we go back to The Rock, we'll talk about it more later, but the storylines, you can't have holes in these storylines. So if it is Trick Williams and Undertaker, it's a one-off. That's what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be a month-long something. We don't need to see Undertaker in a month. And then that's where you continue this. It just there has to be booking in place to protect not only the full-time talent, but make the part-timers not necessarily, they're going to come off strong no matter what. They have that name. They get the merchandise sales. You're going to get social media going crazy, but you have to book these guys properly. And I think that's kind of what everything circles back to, is booking.
Well, and it can occasionally backfire on the part-time talent. So for instance, right, with Nikki Bella and Evolution, as soon as Alexa Bliss, or excuse me, not Alexa Bliss, Liv Morgan went down, then they really had nowhere to go with Nikki Bella, or at least that's what it felt like running up to the point of Evolution. And actually, last night on Raw, I thought Nikki Bella was going to make an appearance when Stephanie Vaquero was getting attacked, and then instead it just ended up being Rhea Ripley. And not that that's wrong, but it is just now like, okay, there's kind of another plot hole within what we just saw and what we just got on Evolution and the Raw that followed. So, I do think you have to be careful a little bit in both directions, because when you do have a part-time talent coming back and you say, hey, they're going to be here and everybody's hyped for it, and then it doesn't meet those expectations, then it's not good for the product. Then more people don't tune in, and then they don't trust whatever you have in place going forward, whether it's going to be good or not.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing, is there is a place for these guys because there is so much star power that it brings. And if you do it right, you can get guys over. And that's what we all kind of want to do, is build towards a future. We don't want a part-timer to be embarrassed, not be in ring shape, Goldberg, etc. We want it to all kind of gel perfectly. And I think there is a place for part-time booking. We just I think they've got a lot of ways to go. And hopefully with Triple H in place, they can make them maximize their potential with it.
Yeah, so I like that you brought up Gunther and Goldberg right there in that portion, because I want to ask you, Maddie, is WWE in a place where they can build kind of their next megastar, their next Cody Rhodes, their next Roman Reigns, who is in fact a part-timer, but can they build these types of stars without part-timers coming back to be like, do they have enough? Is the WWE current roster, is it stacked enough to just get there on its own? Or do you need the occasional Goldberg? Do you need the John Cena thrown in there, the Brock Lesnar's, all that sort of stuff?
Well, and I think a lot of times when you get built to the top, you do it on your own. You're out there wrestling 170, 80 nights a year. The audience is used to you. You're going to elevate yourself just being around the crowd. So the part-time aspect of it, I don't necessarily think it needs to, but I think it adds a lot of the dream matches. That's what everybody wants, right?
Yeah.
Is once you're established enough, once you're a Braun Breaker, like we know you're almost at that ceiling, that's when you bring in a Brock Lesnar. That's when you let Braun Breaker go toe-to-toe with a guy, because now he's leveled up enough that he's in that upper echelon. So can he do it on his own? I think talent do it on their own all the time. And I think that's what makes it special. Cena, all these other guys. We got plenty of guys at the top. CM Punk, Seth Rollins, there's Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn. There's a lot of guys that are right there that are already established.
Sure.
Works out perfect for that next tier.
So what do you think, Maddie, with how, we got John on the screen there. We've brought Brock up a couple of times now. How different do you think it is specifically with this John Cena title run and him being kind of part-time? He's been at most of the PLEs. This year, even though we know the amount of dates that he has on this retirement tour don't stack up to every single week, but I think he had, is it 36, right? So 36 out of 50-ish weeks of the year. That's not part-time, or not full-time, but it's not like severely part-time. But do you think it's being received differently just because like John Cena was upfront about it? He's like, hey, here's what you're getting out of this run. And with Brock Lesnar, sometimes he would disappear for like a month, and we didn't know when we were getting a title defense anymore.
One, how many matches has John Cena wrestled at this point since WrestleMania? Or we'll go the Royal Rumble, because we're at a half of a year.
Yep. So Rumble, Chamber, Mania, Randy, and then who am I missing?
Saturday night's main event.
Saturday night's main event. There may have, it's 5 or 6. It's a handful, basically.
Okay, for example, I don't know if it was a 2 year. I know Roman Reigns' last run as champ, he wrestled 6 times in the last.
We're missing CM Punk.
Right. So you're looking at Cena in his part-time role has already done as much as Roman Reigns did in the last year of him as champion.
Oh, for sure.
Which is crazy. That just shows, I don't know. Like I said, we're just fans, but to me, it's been effective the way his part-time schedule has worked. You're still seeing him on the big shows for the most part.
Yeah, super agree with that. And I also think that when they were just kind of straightforward about it, you're like you're not left wanting. You know what I mean? You're just like, you were told up front, you weren't sold a bag of goods. This is exactly what you're getting, and I think we're going to come to a point where, Roman is probably the part-time or the biggest part-time star right now. I
Right.
mean, he's probably the biggest star period within WWE, but he's pretty part-time. He's got that Brock Lesnar-esque schedule, but he's put it out there a couple of times too, Maddie, that he only has like maybe 2 to 3 years of in-ring competition, or actually, as I as before we jumped on tonight, I went to see Mick Foley tonight, Maddie, and he was talking about Terry Funk retiring for the first time in 1980, and then saying he literally wrestled another
Jesus.
35 years. So I don't think we have another 35 years of Roman. Sorry, that story just clicked as I was talking about it. But let's assume it's truly 2 to 3 more years of Roman. Do you think they could benefit from a John Cena-esque style of retirement tour with somebody like a Roman Reigns? Because I don't think it's going to turn. We talked a little bit about Goldberg, right, and how that did not go well with Saturday night's main event. But John's a WWE lifer. Roman's a WWE lifer. It's not going to go wrong, I don't think, anywhere.
Well, and with Roman, man, there's no, like, to me, the direction's not there. Like, we saw him the night after WrestleMania, and then we don't see him for 3 months. Like, there's nothing. There's no storyline to me right there at all. So it just kind of always, and it seems like with Roman specifically, it's very inconsistent. Like, we don't know what we have as an audience, which really, can be a bummer, can make you mad, can make almost, I think Roman is who he is, but it almost does a disservice to his brand when you see it like that.
Yeah, it's just so interesting how differently it's being received, because once Roman has come through the curtain the last couple of times, crazy ovations. People are acting like it's basically The Rock returning is the kind of reception that he is more or less getting right now. But then, all the online chatter, especially when Brock was part-time and champion, it just was received in a completely different fashion. So is it the case that, like, he can still be in these big feuds, the CM Punk feud, the Rollins feud, the feud that I guess he's got coming up with Breaker and Bronson, presumably at SummerSlam, as long as they don't necessarily put the title on him? Is it the title that's really, like, throwing folks for a loop?
Well, then that's another layer, right? So you finally get to that point where you're the guy, but you have the title. So now you've got to be the face of the company. So you want to see this guy at live events. You want to see him at SmackDown and Raw. You don't necessarily have to defend the title. Gunther does a really good job of this. He's on TV. That's what you want. Once you get to that status, I get wanting to be part-time. But if you're the champ, you have that. You're carrying the company, in my opinion. So if you don't want to be champ, I mean, look at, like, Roman had 2 belts. They had to create a second belt just because Roman wasn't on TV enough. Like, I mean, to me, if you don't have the belt, I think it does a lot less harm than it does as champion.
Well, and I heard Seth Rollins in a conversation talk about, the reign, no pun, that Roman had there for, 1,300, 1,400 days, whatever it was, and the difficulty of not having another title, and basically saying, like, well, everyone else has this ceiling. What is everyone else supposed to be chasing for? And that is obviously the reason that they had to go out and create the world title that they did. I think that's a very good thing. But to your point, if you literally only have one thing to chase and then it's gone for a month, 2 months, the way that Roman was, the way that Brock was, you're definitely doing a disservice to most everybody, because then the biggest thing you can chase is a mid-card title.
Yeah, and how often would we see Brock Lesnar defending the title on a Monday Night Raw? Or Roman Reigns? Never.
Yeah.
So there has to be some level of, you have to get some kind of return out of these guys that are part-time. And the big events are going to sell themselves. So I just think it's better, like you said, putting over younger talent or having those dream matches is a lot better place to be in than being the flag bearer of the company at that point.
Yeah, I can 100% agree with that. So we do have the part-timers again. Obviously, Roman. We assume that Nikki Bella is probably going to be a part-timer at this point. You got a few other ones that have been thrown in the mix over the years. Is there somebody that's, like, kind of at their end of their tenure, maybe it's a little bit with Randy Orton, but not nearly as much. But is there someone like a Randy that you can see coming within the next 2 to 3 years that's going to get the Cena schedule, the Roman schedule, the Brock schedule?
I kind of think with you've got to have the star power, right? That's got to be a big part of it. So you have to be the upper echelon main event. To me, it's the ones that came off. Obviously, I think everybody's kind of seen Seth Rollins, Becky. Just they've already done everything. That's the point. They do carry it. We see how often Rollins gets hurt, things like that. Maybe I don't think he needs to wrestle near as much as just be on television. I think it's perfect. Cody Rhodes is another one. He said 45. He's probably 41, 42.
Yeah, somewhere in that neighborhood.
And then maybe the one that kind of I was thinking, just because I feel like it's mostly people that have done everything, and it's the Usos. I think the Usos.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they've been doing it for 13, 14 years. I don't know Jimmy's trajectory, but I think they could have, just as much of an impact as especially Jay now. He's done it. He's gotten to the title. I don't think he's one of those that I think he'd have a great, he's one of those guys that could go part-time and I think have a big impact.
Really, really interesting there. Speaking of Jey Uso, we are going to be reviewing as part of our SummerSlam Rewind series, Jey Uso versus Roman Reigns, part-time Roman Reigns, if you will, from just a couple of years ago in their Tribal Combat match. So that's going to be coming to our YouTube channel. You can check that out. And then, Maddie, we're going all the way back to SummerSlam 1, yes, for your match this week?
Oh, yeah, the first one, 88, you're getting Hogan, the Mega Powers, Hogan and Macho versus DiBiase and Andre the Giant. Another fun checkout. We've racked up about 10 match reviews at this point.
Yeah.
Now we're going to be, this is what you're getting every week on the way to SummerSlam. Definitely check us out, our YouTube channel at WrestleMatts.
Back to some folks that might be a little bit more part-time coming up sooner rather than later. I think you said it best, that there's got to be that star power factor to even have that consideration of warranting that sort of schedule. So Rey Mysterio, I think, is probably one of the more obvious ones. You and I have talked about it. We don't need to see Rey every single Monday night by any stretch of the imagination. He's got to be, close to the point where the wheels are falling off. So I would actually love to see and invite Rey to be in on that part-time schedule. I think that would be great seeing him as an attraction. And then on the women's side, I think it's Charlotte Flair, man. You talked about somebody that's done everything. She's done everything. And I think this fun or this run with Bliss that we got is a fun little side quest for her. I think she'll eventually get back probably into the main title picture at some juncture. Doesn't need to anytime soon, really. But there's not much left for her to do. I mean, maybe she takes the route of a Becky Lynch where she's trying to elevate a mid-card title at some point. Maybe they make it a thing of her being a Grand Slam champion. But generally speaking, man, Charlotte's another person that's, had her unfortunate luck in terms of the injury department. She's felt a little bit part-time anyways. And you see when she comes back, the impact that it has on the product.
When you just said it, how effective has it been to have Becky Lynch with the Intercontinental Championship, Charlotte with the tag team gold? Tear these guys and girls down a peg and let them that's how you grow your brand. You're getting them with the Street Profits, or you're getting them with Roxanne. This is how you build the brand, all of it at the same time. So I love that idea. Or, part-timers like Undertaker and Trick Williams, a one-off, but it's on NXT. It's getting eyes on the product in a good way.
Yeah, agreed. A little bit of a side quest here that I don't have in the docket, but was just thinking about it just because with SummerSlam around the corner, and I'm sitting here perusing a little bit of SummerSlam and the matchups that have been locked in, and they're already 8 or 9 matches deep for SummerSlam. I know it's 2 nights, but you love to see that the card is coming, coming to fruition like it is. What do you think about kind of the celebrity part-time? Because it's something that's been there from the dawn of time. You know what I mean? We've seen it with Mr. T or Dennis Rodman, Karl Malone, Bad Bunny, Logan Paul. I mean, it's all over the place, right? But at SummerSlam, you're obviously getting Jelly Roll there with Randy Orton in that tag match with another part-time Logan Paul. and Drew McIntyre. So where do you weigh in on the celebrity like aspect of part-timing?
So I was going to text you this earlier. Did you see Drew McIntyre on the Logan Paul show throwing Travis Scott under the bus?
Man, Drew McIntyre, I think sometimes now with Drew McIntyre, he says the real stuff and plays it off as his character, but I think sometimes Drew McIntyre is just out there shooting.
He's one of the greatest shooting percentages in WWE right now. If he is,
yeah. Obviously, Travis Scott is not. I don't think worth the investment there.
No, and I think that's the spot. A WrestleMania main event, probably not. But how they did Bad Bunny, perfect. Right. How they've done, if they're going to use Jelly Roll in this tag match, perfect. But that to have a celebrity, I mean, I can't tell you all the times that it has paid off. Right. The only one that it definitely paid off was Tyson. But there's a lot of ones that, aren't as memorable because they're not supposed to be. They're supposed to be just a garnish to put on top of a pay-per-view. And I think that's where it plays is if Jelly Roll messes up against Logan Paul and, Drew McIntyre, it's an undercard match. Not a big deal. If a Travis Scott messes up the main event of WrestleMania, catastrophe.
Yeah, that's a really fair point. Yeah, that it could look, and I think the bar has changed a little bit too with kind of what we expect with folks coming in. Because I don't know if you remember, this is like a blip on the radar. Do you remember Cain Velasquez coming in for like a hot minute with Brock Lesnar, and that just
what was that?
Yeah, I don't know. I got reminded of that the other day, and I was like, "Oh yeah, that did actually happen."
Crazy.
But the bar with Bad Bunny, the bar with Logan Paul is very different than what it used to be with a Pete Rose, a Drew Carey. They're not just like these little side acts and the Bob Barkers and stuff like that. So if you're dedicating yourself to like being out there in front of people in a match, I don't know if you heard Jelly Roll say he's been in Florida training for like the last month. So, like, look, do I have my reservations about what Jelly Roll is going to be in the ring? Yeah, I absolutely have my reservations. But if the dude is willing to put in the work and try to give us his best, then I'm going to hold off and I'm just going to see what comes of it because I think we could actually be maybe pleasantly surprised at the outcome. Yeah, at the very least entertained.
Well, and I think that's a specific, you're getting a recording artist, a musician, a little different than when you're dealing with a Ronda Rousey. You're tarnishing your legacy if you don't, if you're not up on that tier. So there's different styles. And I think that's why you don't see the crossover to a bunch of like UFC fighters coming to WWE because it's shown if you can't put in the work and Logan Paul, he's great, but he's also, the bar was low. He didn't have to prove himself over another sport. But when you're a star in another athletic, whatever, the stage is huge and, you got to be on point.
Yeah, I am fingers crossed because there's already a lot of TKO crossover, whether it's just with branding, commercials, the way that WWE is going about business, certain reports out there about TKO cutting benefits and this and that. So I'm hoping that is somebody doesn't get the wild hair right to say, oh, the UFC stars are the easiest crossover, because I'm going to be honest, like there is a lot of crossover with WWE and folks that enjoy that. But I personally cannot tell you the last time I sat down to watch UFC. If somebody comes over and you can sell me on them, great. But I personally have never wanted to see a specific UFC star. I didn't like the idea of when they were kicking around with Conor McGregor and certain people like that. You just feel like aren't going to give the product the kind of the proper respect it deserves, which is what I think Bad Bunny, Logan Paul, Jelly Roll has even done. And that's why they endear themselves to the crowd. And people are like, all right, that's cool. If they're going to show up, on a part-time basis, have this part-time booking, we know we're getting their best.
Yeah, it's wrestling's kind of, you got to be the total package. You've got to be a performer, entertainer. You have to tell a story. There's so many aspects that I think wrestling gets shit on by other athletes and other sports because they think they're the best of the best. And yeah, that is a big part of it, but wrestling is way more complex than people make it.
Yeah, a lot of times the solution to making folks look good, especially on a part-time basis, is just keeping it straightforward, simple,
Right.
especially
Easy.
with the athletes, right? We saw it 2-3 years ago with like Jason Kelsey and somebody else that jumped in as a part of the Rey Mysterio Dom tag team match or whatever. And it's like, okay, you give them one spot, you hit
Yeah,
that,
perfect.
you get in, you get out. You don't need to make it more than what it is. So, all right, Manny, anything else you want to throw in here with part-time booking, buddy?
Yeah, because this is one that's been brought up quite a bit. Is The Rock?
Yep.
We keep him in the news because of how he was able to turn, making this all about himself around WrestleMania 40 and kind of transition into that final boss character. I thought was very impressive from a part-time perspective that, okay, they don't want this. So we're going to transition, even though I'm on top, to what this is. And
Right.
yes, took away a little Cody's thunder, but it worked perfectly of how that was supposed to work, I think, having the 2-on-2 to that. So then that works. We're back to the same situation where the Elimination Chamber, Cena turns heel. We go back to storylines. Where's The Rock? We don't have him. So that's another peak and valley of what we need, what we want, what we don't get with part-time performers. And same talk with SummerSlam around the corner. Everybody's kind of, is Cody going to turn heel on Cena? Is it a double turn? Is The Rock going to be involved? So much. I think you need to realize that Rock is going to do what he wants storyline-wise. It doesn't matter. So just another essence of part-time. Don't bank on it.
Yeah, I would actually invite people just on a different level to go into any WWE or pro wrestling viewer experience without expectations. And if you go in
100%.
without expectations, more times than not, you're going to be much happier watching. I mean, you can have inklings and things that you want to see happen, but don't make it like your be all end all if your prediction didn't come true or the storyline didn't go the way that you thought it would. And I'll be honest, I fell victim to it myself at Evolution with the Bianca Belair heel turn that did not happen because I was so sure of it. I was hyped for it. I was like, oh, here we go. It didn't. And I felt that letdown and I knew I shouldn't have done it. I knew that I shouldn't have done it. But back to The Rock, it is interesting specifically. He probably has like the biggest, kind of impact as a part-time star over the last decade. I would say the most talked about thing over the last decade from a part-time star. And yet we never really got like the payoff. But at the same time, it did kind of help build a lot of the things that we ended up seeing. And it did help propel Cody. And it did, give these things to different bloodline members and this and that. And I'm so torn because I do want that payoff and I do want to know all the things. And I do want to know if there's real life heat there with him and Triple. Like, I don't know, man. Is it just the heat that's keeping it? I have no idea.
That's what makes wrestling fun. We're just fans watching it and we're not booking the shows. So that's, part-time wrestling. It's good. It's bad. It's ugly. It's everything that you want it to be. So just like you said, enjoy the show and enjoy the ride.
Before we get out of here, do you have a particular part-time run that you especially enjoyed?
I think we've kind of hit on everything. I would say I'm enjoying the Cena heel turn, the peaks and the valleys, and just kind of knowing that he's on a retirement tour. This has been kind of fun just to appreciate John Cena a little bit more. One of the part-time runs I really never enjoyed was Roman Reigns. I appreciate all his work, but I hated his, the schedule of not knowing when he's going to be there.
So I will throw into the mix for ones that I really enjoyed is Bautista and his last run that led up to his last WrestleMania there with Triple H. I thought everything that he did, especially when he was backstage just beating the absolute piss out of Ric Flair, to get his match. I really enjoyed like basically all of that run, and that's all it had to be. And he's good with it. He's at peace with it. World Elite Podcast in here checking us out on a Tuesday night. Enjoy it. Thank you, fellas. Doing well. And then the other one that I was thinking about is Edge. in WWE because look, man, when he came back, it was pretty part-time. I know a lot of people may not remember it like that, but it was pretty part-time. Like, he would come and go a little bit, and then, he ended his WWE career with, I think, a SmackDown match against Sheamus, and there was something, like, weirdly poetic and beautiful and kind of cool about that. So, I don't know, man, it seemed like he was out there having fun, doing great things, enjoying himself, and I liked his last run.
Yeah, and I think there's still a place for an Edge and Christian, even if it's just, a one-off in the WWE. It doesn't have to be for the title. But you've seen the Dudleys and Hardys and TNA now. I think there's a place for Christian and Edge to make a return at some point and do, a couple more shows for WWE before they hang it up.
Well, if the Hardys and the Dudleys are apparently having one more match, then I feel pretty safe in saying that Edge and Christian could team up and give us, a little bit more awesomeness, a 5-second pose for the benefit of those with flash photography, all that good stuff. So,
Absolutely.
Yeah, man. All right. Part-time booking is in the books. In fact, you can go and check us out on all of our socials at WrestleMatts across the board, TikTok, Instagram, X, wherever you want to hit us up, YouTube as well. Again, a lot of great content coming your way on YouTube with the SummerSlam rewinds. The show is here every single Tuesday, streaming on Facebook, YouTube, and X. We're doing it all, Matty Riser.
Let's get out of here. Another one in the books, baby.
See y'all next time.